everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I'm Doug, along with Brad.
Hello.
And today we're just going to talk about the Devil May Cry series. There's no like anything beyond that. We're just going to talk about Devil May Cry. I think we both very much like this series. And Brad, you actually played 1 through 4 all the way through, right?
More or less, yeah. After E3 with 5, I went through and realized I owned all of them. Like, I had went back and bought them all because they were on sale and stuff, the HD collections,
Yeah.
and never actually bothered to play them after I bought them, which, that happens.
Yeah.
So I went back through and I was just like, you know what, I'll play Devil May Cry 1 again. It's been like 15 years, and played it and was like, oh my god, I forgot how good these were. And then I played 2, and that didn't go so well. I made it like 2 hours.
Yep.
And then I played 3 and 4 and went through all those. So I've played through all of them with the exception of 2, just because it's 2. And it's, yeah.
I think most people will say that as well. Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit just for me to begin with, because I think DMC 1 is like my favorite one by and far.
We can argue that later.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that later. But I think the reason I like the Devil May Cry series is I got not a really interesting story, but kind of like the way I got into it is because so when I was growing up, I used to get kind of like video games were sort of like a reward thing for me. Like I got good grades, I did this, I got
Yep.
it was a reward for me sort of thing. So I remember I had gotten I'm gonna say green belt in karate or something like that.
Watch out.
Yeah. and around this period, Devil May Cry 2 was out. And I remember my dad was picking me up from karate, and I pulled down the visor because it was like bright outside. I pulled down the visor, and then the new copy of Devil May Cry fell into my lap.
Aww.
Yeah, and it was Devil May Cry 1, and I knew Devil May Cry 2 was out, and I knew that it was bad. And I was like, oh my god, you got Devil May Cry. He's like, yeah, I was gonna get you 2, but the guy at the Funko Land said it sucked. So I was like, oh, great.
Oh, Funko Land.
Yeah, and that was kind of like my start with it. And then when I first played it, I just remember like I didn't expect it to be a scary game, and I was like, oh no.
It was Devil May Cry 1?
Yeah, Devil May Cry 1 is a horror game for sure. Absolutely. I mean, not now. I mean,
Okay. Fair point.
Yeah, and I just remember like seeing like those dark castles and stuff. I remember it was a super fun action game that was also kind of creepy, which is something I just never seen before. And I just thought that game was just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of that was my introduction to the series. So how did you get into the series?
I'm pretty sure I just grabbed it off a shelf at like EB Games and was like, this one looks cool, because I think it was one of those things where something happened as well. My parents were like, okay, you can get a new game. I was like, this dude's got a cool coat and a big sword. This looks fun.
That's the way I wish I still bought video games. I wish I didn't know as much.
I think, that was definitely before like I paid enough attention to video games to know like this is a good one, this is not. There was that like 8 to 13 range where you're just like, this one looks cool.
Yeah, like you buy it based on the cover. Like, yeah.
Yep, I totally think I bought DMC 1 based off the cover alone. So
it was a cool cover. It was all black. I remember it was like just black and red. It just looked neat.
Yeah, and it was just him sitting there with his big ass sword, and I was like, okay. Flip it over, and it's like hack and slash demons. And I was like, I can slip this by my parents, I think.
And that was like back when I thought like M rating was still cool. Like
oh
dude,
yeah,
it's like M rated. Like, yeah, man. Like,
yeah,
watch
no
out.
quit. Yeah.
But yeah, I want to talk about that. So I think the way we're kind of framed this is talk about like how there's the series, like starting from 1 and going through all of them. So Devil May Cry 1, my favorite in the series, because I think this is pretty well known, but like in case people didn't know, is that Devil May Cry started out as a Resident Evil game, and then was sort of transferred into this weird like hack and slash game based on some sort of like I forgot the actual reason was, but I remember some of the mechanics, like juggling guys with guns and stuff, were just computer bugs, like code bugs that ended up becoming like mechanics in the game. But I just remember I really like the first one because I liked that sort of dark gothic horror aspect. The enemies I was fighting, especially the marionettes, are just really creepy. Like as a like 10, 12-year-old kid, like that was so creepy to me. And I love that aspect of it. And I think that's kind of gone away as the series gone on. It's definitely not a horror game anymore, like by any means.
Oh, no. There's just finishing 4 a couple days ago. There is no, oh, what is that thing? It's just like, okay, cool. That's kind of a cool character design. That's not creepy. That's just cool character design.
Yeah, I feel like they like try to make things cooler. Like there's no scenes, because I remember the one scene that really stood out to me in Devil May Cry 1 is when you get Alistair for the first time. And Alistair, the scene, correct me if I'm wrong, the scene is that Alistair is stuck in a door, and he pulls out the sword, or the sword comes flying out of the door and impales him on the ground. And then he like lifts his body up through the
Yep.
sword.
Hmm.
His blood is just spraying everywhere. And I'm like,
Yep.
whoa.
Yeah.
Nothing
So
like that.
yep. And it was those kind of things that, like, being 13, you're like, oh, okay, good. Mom's not in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, so how do you feel about Devil May Cry 1 kind of going through it again? Because this isn't your favorite one, I know that.
No, it's definitely not my favorite, but it's. I mean, with the exception of two, they're all great.
Yeah.
This one for me, I think, having not played that and having 90% of my memory going back through this, it's always weird going back and playing games you haven't played for 10 or 15 years
Yeah.
because you put so many weird things in there. All of the Devil May Cry games in my mind were 3.
Oh, interesting.
Like, playing through 3, 60 or 70% of the stuff I remember from Devil May Cry was in 3.
Oh, interesting. Because I was that way with
But
1. I was that way with 1 for sure.
yeah, where it's just like, oh yeah, I remember when I. Oh yeah, that was in 3. Oh yeah, I remember. Oh yeah, that was in 3. Oh yeah, oh that was in 3. And so just playing through 1, it feels a little bit more slow and way less complex. And I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
an aging thing more than anything else. So going like playing it as a kid, I remember just thinking like, oh my god, this is so fast. I can't keep up with what's going on. Like there's so much stuff going on. Like what
Hmm.
am I doing? So I don't think I played very many games similar to Devil May Cry before Devil May Cry.
I don't think there
And
were
I
many games similar to Devil May Cry before
yeah,
Devil May Cry.
I remember thinking like this is something I've never done before.
Yeah.
And that was always I think why this series has stood out for me because it was kind of my first experience with this crazy over the top action hack and slash
Hmm.
genre, so to speak. So yeah, but going back and playing it, it feels slow and it feels
Interesting.
sluggish, and some of the camera angle things are the same issues that I have with Resident Evil, early Resident Evil games.
Yeah.
I struggle with like Resident Evil 1 and 2 just because I don't like the fixed camera thing. I don't like when there's things off camera.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. That's like, yeah.
And again, it's every issue I had playing this was one of those things where it's like I know for a fact 11 or 12-year-old me didn't give a shit about this. But playing it now,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, there's stuff off screen, and I want to see there, and the platforming's a little funky because I can't quite see it. So it's all those like refined game things where you're just like, okay, like we're better than this now. We can do this better.
That will make me, that you just confirmed I will never play that game again, because in my head I just have these awesome gothic horror enemies and stuff, and like none of the gameplay issues, so I'm just not gonna touch that game.
Yeah, and it's not bad by any means. I mean, I played through the whole thing. It's still great. It's still got all those cool gothic horror things. It's still got awesome scenes. The bosses still are fun to fight against.
Yeah.
I enjoyed playing through it. It's just it's those little nitpicky things when you play an older game sometimes that just kind of stand out. Where you're like, ugh. In 4, I could move the camera, and this wouldn't have been an issue.
I do have one question, because one of my favorite bosses in the series, and again, this is like totally based on memory, was the bird one, because the bird one just like, what is going on? To me, that was such a shocking enemy and like just a really cool fight. Does that hold up at all or no?
I remember being very irritated just because
Damn
you
it.
couldn't really see well where it's coming from.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it's constantly like above you, so you're kind of playing with the shadow of it a little. It was a funky fight that took me a couple tries just because it was like I couldn't quite get my bearings, and I think that's earlier in the game too.
yeah. It's like, I think it's
So
like
it
the
was
second
like
or third boss.
yeah, so it was one of those things too where it was like I'm still trying to like reacquaint myself with 15-year-old controls and just yeah.
I'll pretend I heard that it was still awesome.
It's still great. It's just like the big flying bosses in Shadow
Yeah.
of Colossus. They're amazing, no question about it.
I like the one thing I do want to finish up with Devil May Cry 1 is I just remember as a kid being so shocked with the final area, because it's all this gothic horror stuff, and it's like this pristine white cathedral that you're going down to fight essentially like Satan, and I just like that was
Yeah.
such a creepy, like, I don't know, that like, as I think that happens a lot of games now, like these perfectly white rooms at the end, but like as a kid
Hmm.
I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, and I do think that's why this game always stands out in my mind because it's so unique,
Yeah,
and because whether there were games like this before or not, I think this was a lot of people's first exposure to games like this.
yeah,
So it does have a lot of those things where you're just like, as a kid, like this was so crazy because I hadn't really seen that before.
gotcha. And now it's, yeah, okay.
Now you're just like, yep, we've either learned from this so much, or so much of this has evolved, or so much of this has been used before that it's just kind of like, okay, yep, 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 yep.
That's a bummer. I get it though. I mean, that makes sense. Okay, so I never played Devil May Cry. So moving on to Devil May Cry 2. I never played it, so I got like zero opinions on it.
I remember playing it as a kid, and I remember liking it. I don't remember a lot of the stuff again, like 1 through 3, a lot of it blurred in my mind and all ended up in 3.
Yeah,
So I don't know if I ever finished it as a kid, but I can tell you, like, having played it for 2 hours, based on just that, it's really weird. Just nothing feels right.
yeah. Okay.
Everything just feels like it's a little off. Like there's lots of just running and no demons, and you just kind of run, and then you get to an area and you fight your demons, and then you run for a long time. It's not the nice like connected rooms. The area I'm thinking is that you open up in a city, and you're kind of just running through city parts, and there's not a lot of demons. Then you find some demons, and there's not a lot of demons. It's just it felt off. Everything felt off.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some interesting stories about that game's development. Like it was like I think we were talking a little bit before. It was like a year turnover. It was kind of another game before it was Devil May Cry, and the director kind of got thrown into it like at the last second because it was going so poorly.
Yeah, you can feel a lot of the stuff where it's like, okay, you can kind of feel this was lifted from one, and this is like, oh, we tried to make this bigger and just didn't have enough time or it didn't quite fit right, and yeah, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm just like waiting for like one thing. It's like it's worth going through to some extent. I just never right here. I heard his costume is pretty cool though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Good character model in that.
Yeah. So moving on to Devil May Cry 3, my least favorite one.
Wow, what the fuck? Wait, are you serious?
I'm dead. I am actually dead serious. Like not.
Okay, wait. So we need to pause here because that means your order goes 1, 4, 3, 2, right?
Mine goes 4, 4, 1, DMC Special Edition 3.
Oh, damn. Okay. Because mine is definitely 3, 4, DMC 1.
That's so 2. Funny. Yeah, that's so funny. That's like,
wow.
Oh, so you have like, so our 1 and 3s are swapped.
Yeah, essentially. Okay, why is 3 not the best one?
So,
like, what's your issue with 3 that makes it the worst one?
So mine is like completely circumstantial.
Yep, that's
I was one of the poor souls who got caught with the original version of DMC 3.
Yes, okay. To point this out.
Yeah, this is important. This is very important.
Yeah, this is when I was well educated about games because I bought that first one.
Yeah.
And I remember being so disappointed that I couldn't get past like mission 7 or something like that. I made it through like 5 or 6 missions, and then it's just like, I can't do it.
Yep.
I can't do it. And then like, I don't remember why, but I ended up, I think I rented it when it came out, the special edition.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, this is amazing.
Yeah, and so for people who don't know, I guess if like you've just never, this is your first time hearing the series, like maybe I don't know who our age demographic is anymore.
It's just the two of us.
So when DMC3 was first released in English, for whatever reason, the normal mode was the same as the hard mode in Japan, and there was just the easy mode was not the normal mode. It was just a insanely difficult game, and it was not fun playing that game because there's a lot of interesting mechanics with DMC3. That are just hard to wrap your head around in general. Plus, on top of that, the game is really hard. So I remember just having no fun with this game, like at all, because of that. And then I did eventually get the special edition, and I did eventually go through the game. And I really, actually, the one thing I really did like, I like the Jester character a lot. He's probably one of my favorite bad guys in the game.
Yeah.
And then I just remember the thing with DMC3 to me. The reason I didn't like it is I felt it was very complicated. I felt like there was a sort of a nice simplicity of DMC1 and in DMC4 with Nero that I just enjoyed, to the fact where I always felt like I knew exactly what I was doing. But with DMC3 and especially DMC4 Dante, is that it never felt like I was always 100% in control. Like he didn't do exactly what I wanted him to, because there are just so many ways that you can mix up combos and so many ways you can mix up different things. And I think that was just it, honestly, because like there are things I definitely like about 3. Like I definitely like Lady. I like the Jester character. I found Dante just like a little annoying, I think.
See, Devil May Cry 3 Dante is my favorite Dante thing because he's he's just a bit too snarky. Like
yeah.
He's just over that line, but the way that character is presented and the way he fits in that universe, I love that he's like just a bit more of that than I want him to be. And I just think that fits really well with that game.
Yeah.
But like Lady is great in that game. I love her interaction with the Arkham. Yeah, Arkham. Yes.
Yeah.
Like her interaction with Arkham and just how that kind of parallels Dante and Virgil and Sparta, and there's lots of parallels in the story, and just how all of these things are working together, and it just everything about that game works well.
Mm-hmm.
And I get what you're saying about complicated, because he is complicated in that game, but comparing him to DMC4 Dante, way more complicated.
You're saying DMC4 is way more complicated.
Yes. DMC3 Dante, I think, is a perfect middle ground where because you have to pick your style beforehand,
Yeah, you can't swap in the middle of it. Yeah.
you can't swap in the middle, which I think in 4 just starts to make me overthink things way too much about how I'm using those styles. Whereas this, it was just I played straight trickster because I wanted that dodge button.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I think I played this like when I was a kid, so like this is like, but now this is like however many years later. I've played a lot of action games like this. So I could probably go back to that one and be like, oh no, this is actually a really good game. But that's just like my current impression of it. I did like a lot of the characters in that though, and I really like the cutscenes in that. I love the cutscenes in DMC3. I remember those being really
Oh
fun.
yeah, yep. And that was the thing too with that one is the game is just it's the most fun in the series. Like
Oh, okay.
everything is a bit of a joke, but really serious and dark.
Yeah.
But a bit of a joke. Like the jester character in that is literally just there to kind of like make things entertaining
Yeah.
and just lighten up like this really grim, dark story about the end of the world and resurrecting demons and all this stuff. And you got this little like guy, just jester guy, just dancing around and making cracking a couple jokes. So
Yeah.
I just the tone of that game is right what I love.
Oh,
I
okay.
love that tone. A game in that kind of tone, like we talked about Enter the Gungeon, where it's just kind of like goofy enough, but it's not a comedy game.
Yeah.
That's what this hits for me, and I love it.
I do like games that can be silly but not really funny, because a silly game can still get serious and have like very cool scenes in it
Yes.
and still keep a general silly tone, because when things stop being silly, because it's not a big swing of emotions either, it's just like, because things are a little silly, if we make them not silly at all, then it's like, oh whoa, this is intense, this is cool.
Yeah. Yep.
The one thing that bugged me about DMC3 more than anything is I hated their Devil Trigger designs.
Yeah, they're kind of weak.
They're bad. I think they're bad. And the thing is, they were designed by the guy who did the Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne stuff.
Oh.
So that's why they look like, because it just looks like Shin Megami Tensei characters when they were like super cool demons before. I don't know. I gotta go back and play
Yeah.
that game.
You really should. It actually holds up really well.
Oh
Unlike
yeah.
DMC1, there's a DMC3. I think perfect game in what it did.
Hmm.
Easily the best in the series. And I think still even 10, 15 years later, I don't know when that one was released. I want to say 2005. Still feels just as good as playing DMC4. Feels just as good as playing some of the newer action RPGs.
All right, so let's pause there, and we're going to talk about DMC4 and the infamous DMC in another video. So if you guys like what you heard, you can follow us at Workforce Gaming on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next week.